Professor Richard Wolff appeared on NEC TV to talk about the supply chain as our economy continues to condense as Park Place and Boardwalk get bigger.
Our problems. That's why our inequality gets worse, and that's why the shelves in the stores are troubled.
Yeah, I literally, those are photos I took yesterday. Hold on, the ones that I had up on the screen a second ago. Those are photos I took yesterday of where the lettuce and peppers and tomatoes and fruit is supposed to be at the grocery store that I go to. And, my sister was talking about not being able to get cat litter. We're not talking about everything all the time. I even noticed in some of the big box stores and BJ's, they used to have 10 different types of toilet paper. Now they have one, the BJ's kind of toilet paper, and that's it. It's an interesting shift that people are going to have to make to understand that we're not going to be able to get everything exactly when we want it, like we did, pre-pandemic.
Americans, used to watch on occasional television shows, National Geographic or somebody showing you poor people in some sad situation in Asia and Africa and Latin America and so on. And there you could see what an economic crisis meant. People couldn't get running water. People couldn't get milk for babies. And Americans thought, oh, that's some kind of problem they have. Isn't it wonderful? We don't. Mm-hmm. Well, welcome to the new world, friends.
Well, I think
do.
And
it's very similar roots to these problems.
Oh, good. Well, we're going to talk about that as well. I think what's most striking to people, and I like to call the mainstream media the make sure you're misled media, and they've got the old everything's okay going on, as you mentioned. Even I think the Biden administration has this sort of tone of like, well, if we just build more bridges and we do this, everything will be okay. If we give, do these 5 things that Democrats will do, give you 15 cents on the 400,000 that you actually need to run a society in a just way, that everything will be okay. And it's interesting to me that now these empty store shelves, these food deserts are people who are in the middle class are starting to have the same issues that people who are in, the poorer classes in our country have been having all along, that nobody's been covering except for, you, us, etc. There's a few good people out there, but not really the mainstream media. They only cover it, say, during the pandemic when regular people's, middle class cars were lined up around the block to get a box of food at the local mall. I remember seeing those images. What do you make of the fact that those kind of things, those empty store shelves, are now in the middle class area?
It's a little bit like watching a cancer metastasize to spread. A capitalist system is a highly stratified system. We all watched a few weeks ago when Elon Musk and Jeffrey Bezos and maybe a couple of other billionaires competed with one another about who could sit in a little rocket ship and spend 10 minutes in space. And, we didn't want to pay too much attention to the hundreds of millions of dollars it took to do all of that. The spectator in us didn't want to ask, why is that something only a handful of very rich people can do? We didn't want to ask, gee, if that money wasn't spent on being able to be in a rocket ship for 8 minutes, if you're a billionaire, it could have filled the supermarket shelves for many of us. We don't ask those questions. But that doesn't mean the reality isn't there. And it's just spreading. You're absolutely right, Julia. It is spreading. More and more people cannot be carried when you have an economy that gives such a disproportionate amount of its wealth to a tiny group of people who are, by the way, already the wealthiest. The statistics are unambiguous.